Hello, everyone. Welcome to an awesome day of FileMaker training. So today and tomorrow, Mark, if you go back to the training real quick, Jacob Taylor is today and tomorrow, and we're going to jumpstart this and get this going right now. Today is a build on, once again, we're focusing on AWS-based virtual servers and then Linux FileMaker Server on that and or Windows, and today is Windows. Now, I'm going to share my screen briefly real quick, replace current share, switch to this over here. So this is the terminology kind of conversation we've had right here. You can see, folks can see this. But yesterday, the big picture steps where you have or you get or you have an AWS account. Yeah, I'm going to say provide credit card. Yeah, you have to do that too. You're going to build the instance, which basically means you're telling Amazon to spin up a virtual server for you. Okay. We did that the day before. Then yesterday we did the installation of FileMaker Server on Linux, and that was a command line event. So now we're going to do the same thing today with Windows, largely the same thing, but the server is more expensive because when we split up this instance, this is the hardware, and I'm just going to call it the base software for the server. Well, if you're on Linux, then it's the machine is operating on Linux. If it's Windows, then you have the same hardware probably or something close, and then you have a Windows installation. And Amazon, you're like, well, how do we pay for Windows? Amazon has a deal with Microsoft. I'm sure one of Microsoft's biggest customers, and they will pre-built. It's baked into the cost of the Windows server is the operating system license for you. So you don't have to worry about it. They take care of it. So I just want to mention that up front. So I'm going to quit sharing. We're going to pivot to Jacob control here. So this is as we go, I'm going to kind of retread like things. So this is our Amazon interface for our account. And we're looking at up here at the top left, EC2, and then instances are our virtual servers.
Okay. Yeah, so if I go just to this is where you'll be at login. We have recently visited because we've been recently visiting for these live streams. But this will be empty. So if you need to find the server area, you'll type EC2 into this box. You'll be presented with a few options and you can navigate over here.
Okay.
Yours will probably have functionally all zeros in here. We're going to set up a Windows server today. We're going to run the latest version, FileMaker Server 21.1.4 or FileMaker 2024, because 2025 isn't out yet. And so that has certain operating system requirements that I'll just note. I believe it supports both Windows Server 2019 and 2022. The biggest question I get and the big no at the front of this is no, it does not support Windows Server 2025. That one's out.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Is that a new Microsoft? Okay.
It's a new one. Yep. I don't know if there's any even notable changes or anything anybody cares about. Stuff like that is a bigger factor for on-site customers where someone sells them a Windows license, usually with hardware that they're purchasing, and it becomes more difficult to you got to go ask them for the old version basically, and a lot of IT orgs are like, looking at you with question marks about having to go for the old version basically. Next version that comes out should support it, I think.
Okay, great.
Anyway, so we're going to get right into it, and then I just put the thing over my launch button. Sorry, that's me.
So we have an instance right now. So let me ask a question. Jacob, can we convert an instance from Linux to Windows, or just press a button and it just converts it or something?
No.
Okay, good.
No, and I don't even think you could do that. You could probably figure out how to do that.
Even if you could do it, it would be a horribly bad idea, right?
Yeah. And not this one, because this is an ARM server. I could think of a theoretic situation.
Nope. Yes or no was all we needed was yes and no. And the answer is no.
I would not do that. It would be laborious and take a long time. Don't do that. Some people do things like that on on-site servers though. So
okay, so just for shits and giggles, I'm going to recommend that we create a new instance so we can see both side by side.
Like the IT orgs, Amazon defaults to the latest version of Windows, which is not supported, so we're not going to use that. Between the different versions that are here, you're going to do base and not core base. This one's for, it's got less Windows stuff installed, supports less things. You don't want it in short version. There's also other ones that I'll just note to stay away from. There's things like with SQL Server, and they have a higher per hour cost on Amazon because they include additional licenses. Just like we have a built-in Windows license that's a tiny bit of the hourly fee or whatever that just over the month pays for your Windows usage. Same thing, higher monthly fee. You can get like SQL Server and stuff like that. You don't want that. Doesn't matter for this purpose, but I'll just note it so that you don't accidentally click something like that. You know what you're looking at. So we're going to pick the latest version of Windows that is supported, which is 2022. We're going to use the base version. We are not going to change this because it's not even a dropdown because they do not offer ARM Windows builds. I don't know that that doesn't exist, but because I know there is a version of Windows somewhere that runs on an ARM processor, but we don't care about it for this purpose, and it's not available to us on Amazon. Instance type. These are one. We can go back over this, the short version today. None of this has enough memory. 1 gigabyte is insufficient. Realistically, actually, not FileMaker Server, Windows, this would be your minimum size anyway. And you're going to be up on a large or an X large anyway, because this is our two CPU, 8 gigabytes RAM, except I'm going to make a change here. T2s are old. Actually, T3s are old. T2s are even older. So we're going to change that to a T3. And then we're going to find the large. T2 and T3 are both Intel processors. You can save the tiniest bit of money if you do a T3, say A, which if I type that in there, it'll come up. Those have an AMD processor instead of an Intel. It's the only difference. I think it's a 10% savings on the hourly fee, basically. It's not worth it, short version. we have found it. I used to try it to save clients money. Those older AMD processors aren't as good as the Intels that are both old, but they're of the same generation. They're not as good. And for what FileMaker Server does, I'll just generally recommend the Intels over the AMDs. If you're doing newer stuff, so if you do like an M series, we mentioned those yesterday, those are more like dedicated hardware and they're very new processors. AMD is absolutely competitive with and sometimes exceeds Intel. It's a much better balance and choice. You can pick between them and see what you want, but they're both good. The new ones, they're both good. So we're going to stick with the T3 for these because they're cheaper, honestly. We're not going to do that. We're going to do create a key pair. We're going to name RCC. What is this? Windows Test FMS. I think that's what I'm naming all of these things.
Yep.
And then we create a key pair. And then this one does not support that other key type.
Once again, this key pair is it's a little text file like your badge. It's your access badge when you flash your badge saying, "Hi, I'm Ed Burkle."
This will work differently. Yeah, this will work differently than the Linux one. On Linux, you directly use this file. It'll download it when I hit the create button. On Linux, you use this file directly to log into the server itself. It's programmed into the server by Amazon at, we'll say, boot up or creation time. For Windows, they do something a little different with it. It is what they use to encrypt your Windows administrator password, the initial one that comes with the machine. And so you will take this file, and I'm going to do this once the machine is launched here in a couple of minutes, and we're going to go in and decrypt the Windows password so that we can log in with it.
Okay.
So create key pair.
All right.
Save that. Sounds great.
We had a lot of people chime in here, Kyle. A bunch of people, Margaret, watch on YouTube and stuff, and then they chime in Discord. So, yeah. So.
Yes.
So we're going to do this. Same thing. I'm going to do my IP. As always, avoid leaving. Just like I did yesterday 2 days ago with Linux, avoid allowing your remote desktop. In this case, this is your core administrative interface for the server. Avoid leaving that open to the entire internet. If you lock it down to a few, one IP, I can do that easily here. But if you add a few entries for your home or your office, a short list, that will always be better than leaving it wide open for convenience purposes.
It's going to make it way harder for them to get into
on the internet. Everybody, every Russian and other state actor is your nearest neighbor, and you want to be careful about that. You may not think that you're, interesting or targeted. Let me be clear: all of that stuff is completely automated at this point. You will be detected within minutes. Avoid finding yourself in that situation. So,
You're saying that that when they attack you, it's not a real person, but it's an automated process that's attacking you?
There are companies and services that are there's a version of Google, I'll call it for bad analogy purposes. There's a version of Google that you can look up insecure computers running on the internet from.
Really?
People pay for access to that because the polite version is they would like to see their own exposed services on the internet and find out what they
Sure.
are and fix them. But unfriendly people and organizations can also do the same thing. And even if you don't, you're the Russians, and so you can't pay for that or something like this. Fine, you could build your own.
Okay.
Many
Wow.
governments do. So, yeah, just
Okay.
be safe out there.
Yeah, be
We're
safe.
we're gonna build a, what did I get yelled at for yesterday? We're gonna do 150 gigabyte. This will be the boot drive. We need to do, yeah,
You want
we're
GP3, right? Don't you want
correct.
GP3?
I was just thinking we need to do multiple volumes here.
Okay.
So short discussion about disks, volumes, disks. Same applies on on-site servers, although sometimes you do things just slightly differently. Boot drive, that's going to have Windows and, generally speaking, FileMaker Server on it. We don't put the databases on there, actually. When the boot, so for a couple of reasons, actually. One is FileMaker Server, if that disk gets full, will emergency close your databases. That's annoying. Maybe a problem, actually, also, but it's at least annoying. Second, Windows famously, and this is a non-technical description, gets extremely mad if you fill its boot drive, and you want to avoid that where possible. I won't say at all costs, but as spend money to make sure that doesn't happen. Windows gets very, very unhappy if you ever fill its boot drive. And so we put databases somewhere else, we put backup somewhere else, we put container data somewhere else.
Okay, can you just scroll up for a moment here? Because then I'm going to have you add these other drives real quick, but I want to scroll up. Did we specify the operating system? Where was
Yes,
that
we
at?
did. That was
Where
the first
was that?
thing.
Right
here.
Right. But we said
No.
Microsoft. Oh, right here, Microsoft.
Yeah.
And then 22 server base.
This is Tony's question.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it's a little bit bigger question. So if you want to scroll down real quick and just add the drives, Jacob, and I'm going to talk this out real quick. So,
Sure.
So here's the deal. So so we're talking about that this training is two pieces. Part of it is having Amazon data set, not the shopping part, but the Amazon data centers run our server for us. One. So we've been having this conversation. So I don't remember, Tony, if you've been here every day, but I recommend we're going to push these recordings out as quick as we can, watching these from the beginning on that. But to answer the question, half this conversation and what Jacob's doing right now is we're building the server. Then we add FileMaker. This conversation has nothing to do with FileMaker just yet. Now, when we build a server, we spin it up, we turn it on, we specify the operating system. For the most part, the operating systems on here are all Windows Server. I don't think the 11 is in there. 11 is a client operating system, right? It's not a server operating system. Now, so there's no way to really take an Amazon virtual server, put Windows 11 on it, and then put FileMaker on it, because Amazon's not going to do that. That's not what normal IT groups would do. We use a client operating system on the server. The reason you do that is you're trying to get away from paying for the server. The only way to get away, or you're trying to get away from paying the server operating system to Microsoft. Amazon is billing that into the price, right? And so you're thinking like, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, to get away from paying for Windows Server, you're going to have to switch to a Linux machine, which you're going to have to learn the command line, or you're going to have to build your own Windows machine in your office, install Windows 11 on it, Pro, and then see how far you can get with a FileMaker Server installation. On and off over historically, that's kind of worked, but not super reliable, really. And if you do that, don't call Jacob for tech support, because he'll get mad at me. So, Jacob, am I saying that correctly? Right? So
so a couple parts there. I actually know the secret sauce to make FileMaker Server work on client operating systems. I do not do that. First answer to that: do not do that. You are using the wrong tool for the job, is the short version. If what you are trying to do is get out of paying a licensing fee, please just get a Linux computer. You will have better reliability for what you're trying to do, and you don't have license considerations at all. And that's fine. That puts you in an excellent position. You'll have,
but then you have to learn the command line. So something has to give, right? So yeah.
Mark, time or money. No, I was just saying it's basically time or
Yeah,
money,
it's
right?
time or money. It's
Yeah.
money
Pick
on
one.
or time
Yeah.
because you got to learn the command line.
If you're going to do a Windows Server, fine. Please pay for the license for it. In general, you need, I'll call it a standard edition of Windows Server. There's a bunch of different kinds of licenses, data center count, stuff like that. It specifically needs to be one of the variants that supports the desktop stuff. There's some like, I don't know, essentials or something type versions that don't do that. They're cheaper. You can't use them. You need the graphical support things for PDFs and server-side
We're talking about
functionality on
Windows,
FileMaker
right?
Server.
The version
We
of
are.
Windows. Can you
we
scroll
are.
up real quick back to that pop-up and we'll just look at that? Click on that real quick.
Those aren't in there. No,
They're not in here.
They don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's what I'm noting it because those are things that are available to people who buy direct Windows licensing from Microsoft.
Okay.
Either directly or through a vendor. Yeah.
So is there a difference between core base and base? Not that we have to dive into it. Which one do we want? Which one do we buy without getting into it? Base, just base. Okay, great. Base. Everyone
or
base.
Things. Yep.
Base. There we go.
You don't want it.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right, moving along. So
it's
a great question. Great question. Thank you, Tony.
We did the IP. We have 4 disks here. I've given them different sizes so they're easy for me to identify. Honestly, because we'll come in and they won't have labels on them. And what the heck is that? So we're gonna have a database drive. We're gonna have a boot drive. We're gonna have a database drive. We're gonna have a backups drive, and we're gonna have a container data drive.
Okay.
Zero file systems. Is that gonna let me? That's a different thing. Cool. That's FSX. I don't care about that. You can do cool stuff here. We're not going to do any of this.
Do we need to do this firewall adjustment somewhere? That one?
No, that comes after the machine launch, just like yesterday.
Okay. So this is, they haven't spun it up just yet. Okay, yeah,
nope.
Here we go.
Yeah, I was just making sure we don't have any of this other stuff to do, and we do not. So we're going to review our details over here on the right side in the summary. I don't need to be down there even. We have a Windows Server 2022. We're going to do a T3 large, which is a dual core with 8 GB of RAM. That'll be the minimum size.
That is solid state drives on that for those you wondering.
Solid state drive. Yep. Yeah. The modern, faster version of those two. GP2s are technically solid states, but they are, if you all remember, the very first SSDs that ever came out. They're like 100 megabytes a second total, which was amazing compared to 20 megabytes a second on an IDE drive then. It was life-changing. It's not anymore. And then we have our 4 volumes, and so we're going to hit launch.
Okay, so here it goes.
And we don't have any feedback.
Would you like to review and give Amazon feedback? Okay. Yep. Whoa, is it done already? Wow.
It's not done booting and stuff, but yes.
Okay.
VMs on Amazon launch in measured in milliseconds if it's Linux, and there's a non-trivial amount of engineering that goes into making those millisecond counts go down. Because people want to be able to with servers. And if you make your it's not a FileMaker conversation, but if you make your application something where, quick boot up, respond to things, shut down quickly, or do a little bit of work and shut down quickly, and then you only get charged for, say, seconds or minutes of usage like that.
Okay.
There's people that that's their jam. So.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
All right, so this is, as you can see, they renamed it. It's the Windows app. This is Microsoft Remote Desktop. It used to be called that. I wish it still were. Makes way more sense.
Okay, is this an I'm a Mac guy. I don't do a lot of Windows. I mean, I do it, but I buy a Windows machine to do that. Do we download this off of the Apple App Store? That's where it comes from? And I just do a search for Windows app?
Completely free. Yep, made by Microsoft. Great. Hilariously, the Mac one is and has always been better than the Windows one. I don't know why.
Wow. Oh yeah. Okay. It's literally, I just did a search for it and it says
app.
Previously remote desktop under the little text there.
Yep.
Yeah. Under if you're in the App Store. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get this.
So I'm going to add hold on. Let me make it wide enough.
Ed Burkle, do you use Windows at all? I know that Ed's there. I don't know if he's multitasking or I'm sure he's doing other paperwork right now.
You want to do this, you're going to be doing add a PC.
When I get to that. Okay.
Now we have, all right, so we're going to do this. I'm going to copy this IP address. This is our public IP that was put automatically by Amazon onto the server. We're going to name it RCC stream test. Oops, I have to spell it right. Windows test. Let's do Windows test. Windows test. Saved PCs. That works. I have none of those. We're going to reconnect automatically. This one's great. I'm not gonna do this. I wish this bug were fixed. So that's my size. I think if I do that, it'll be small enough that I can fit both of them on screen. This is, so not this tab, we don't care about that. This is a cool feature that is more difficult to do in the Windows version, humorously. I can add random folders on my computer as a network drive on to the remote server. So when I'm on the remote server, I'll like have Jacob's Mac Mini, and that's like a folder on my desktop or something,
Oh,
right?
that's right. I remember that being
Yeah.
a thing. Is that still a thing? Okay. Okay.
So, so we have our server. That's our entry. Hold on. I'm gonna do add, which means it'll show up. Perfect.
By the way, folks, if you have questions about this, let me know. I want to make sure we're answering. I mean, obviously, if you're off in the weeds on stuff, that's fine, but I want to make sure that we're making this valuable to you. Otherwise, why do it? Okay. So if you see like this window here and you don't understand something, please let us know. So Margaret, Margaret's not done any AWS stuff, but Margaret's smart. So Margaret, what are we looking at here? What is this screen? Quick.
This is the thing where you can see your servers, basically, the ones that you have
It's an
access to.
Amazon console, right? And it
yes.
shows that we have 2 servers. So Jacob manages probably 20, 30, 50, 100 servers as far as you see.
100, yeah.
He's got a long list of, right? So then there's also, you can't really see it, but there's a search in here so you can try to find the, name of the server, filter by something or whatever, right? So yeah.
We're gonna grab an elastic IP here. So we have our one from yesterday. Ooh, let's name this. That's the old one from yesterday. We're gonna do Windows. So we're gonna allocate an elastic IP. This is your static IP in Amazon. Basically, it's elastic for other reasons. I labeled it because that's our one from the Linux streams, and I want to make sure I don't confuse the two. I'm gonna allocate a new one. That's get a new one. There's some facilities here to bring in your own IP if you have whatever. We don't care about that. We're just going to use one of Amazon's, under contract, basically. So now we have it. It's unlabeled. I'm going to name this windows.rcc.com.
So are we in Route 53 to do this part of it or no?
No, we're not.
Okay.
I'm going to. That's where I'm going to go off on my other screen, but
okay,
because it's in our
Route 53 is their DNS management, right? So that's where you type www.apple.com and it resolves to an address at Apple. Okay, so Hot Air Balloon Kid had said something really great here. He says that Jacob's done 3 Amazon installs for him, and him watching this helps him better understand what Jacob had done. David Angel and Ed are talking about, I think it's better to have the hardware. As a reminder for my part of the, Jacob, you're still going here, that's fine. As a reminder for my part of the conversation, RCC used to run all on-prem. And then Jacob came along and insisted it'd be better to do virtualized, especially with someone reliable. We've tried a couple other companies and we always end up back at Amazon, right? I run an on-prem Mac server because I have my own shit on it and I run my own stuff on there, but it allows me to do the install. Now I have Jacob watch me do it. It's like a little guardian angel hovering over me. And he says, I need my little puppet, Jacob puppet. Do that, right? You can hire him to do that for you, by the way. If you want all the training, he'll sit there and help you with that. But that way I have the experience of it, right? So Ed Burkle and Larry or David Angel have on-prem servers. If they built those, then that helps their expertise and understanding of stuff. It's useful when the wheels fall off. It crashes, it blows up, smoke comes out the side. Having that experience can be very valuable.
Yep. So we've allocated this IP. I gave it a lovely name, but it's not associated. So we need to attach it to, hey, it even gives me a big green button. Nice, thank you. We're gonna do, so you can do that. That's helpful. The long way basically is you go to the home screen, right? This is the overview. Instances, we have our Windows test. You can see this, the Linux one, the top one has an elastic IP. That's from yesterday. This one doesn't. So the long way is you come down here. Where is it? I've lost it. No. Where is it? Where'd you go? There it is. Okay, elastic IP is network and security. Elastic IP, Windows. You have to select it, so you've addressed that, item basically. We're going to associate. It's the same screen I just clicked onto using the little green box. Going to click into here. One of the helpful things Amazon does is if you're clicking around like this, they'll load fresh information. And like if one of these was turned off, it would say stopped. So we're going to do the Windows one. And we don't have to do anything else here. Just associate. You have to click the go
Okay,
button.
so Margaret, real quick, this is important. This is subtlety. Jacob, keep going. When you get back, when you're done associating it, bring it back to the menu where you see the servers.
Yep. Go back
Okay.
to instances.
Okay, so let's go to
and I'm going to hit refresh.
okay.
And now you see, boom, we have an elastic IP. It changed both of these.
Okay, so slide to the all the way to the left, Jacob, real quick, and I just want to just pause for a second. So Margaret, if this is for beginner people who are interested in Amazon, so
Yes.
what is the current state of the instance?
It
says right there in green. It's right
running.
there.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
running. So
what does that mean?
I assumed that if I could like pop up the credentials on my thing and I would be able to access it and pop into the screen and look at it.
So if it's running on Windows, that means that the Windows is running and there's an
I should be able to interact with the UI of Windows. Yes.
So you can so these instances you can run them, you can stop them, or I think can you pause them, Jacob? Can they pause or no? It's just off.
Stopped. Yep.
It's stopped. So they're still there. They're still reserved. They're in a shutdown configuration. We can tell them to restart.
Mm-hmm.
So they simulate the whole power off, power on, the operating system reboots, the whole enchilada, right? So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Now, terminate. Yeah.
Well, that means that you get rid of the information. I assume stopping the instance just means that you reserve you can restart it at any point in time, right?
Stop it means it's like it's basically a shutdown, right?
Yes.
You're shutting it down. It shuts down theoretically gracefully. That's a loaded conversation. We'll leave that aside. But it shuts it down like shut down your computer. Start means start. Reboot means reboot. Terminate means we're going to take this virtual server and we're going to run it through a chipper, and it's gone.
Yep.
Okay, very important. Okay, so that means that you've destroyed the server. What about the stuff on it? Gone. Okay, so understand
most of the time, yeah.
Yes.
There's situations where you can allow the disks to remain. A little complex for this stream, but for the most part, hard drives that come up with a server on Amazon are marked that when you delete the instance itself, the drives also go away. And so you will lose all of that data. Yes.
Real quick, so David Angel asked a question. So because David Angel is such a big contributor here, and I appreciate his frog graphics, I'm going to answer this question again. An elastic IP is essentially a static IP. The reason it was called elastic is because the programmers at Amazon, way back in the day, wanted to program so you can take a server, you can shut it down, you can move it to different regions, different data centers. So remember that server is virtual. It's just software. And you can shut it down and transport it. You could duplicate, you do all sorts of stuff. The IP address has to go with it. It's a static address that had to travel with it. So you call it a traveling static address. Instead, they called it an elastic so they could elastically stretch it and move it with the server. I think it goes way back. That term goes back to before Jacob was ever at RCC. It's been around a long time.
That's an old
term. But they had to elastically program the servers to take the static address and drag it with it like a rubber band. It stretches around. So that's what that means. So it's a static address. So we never see the word dynamic. You get a dynamic address automatically when you build the server. And Jacob assigned. And so, and that address will stay as long as you don't restart the server, which is that part over here where we said restart, right?
If you literally reboot it, it keeps it. If you ever stop the instance, you will lose it and get a fresh one if you start it back up again.
Yeah.
It'll retain it. They're not, they understand. They're like, they just rebooted it. It'll be right back. Like, no worries. But if you literally stop it, even for like a minute or something, fresh IP on the other side.
And they're pretty inexpensive. They're not much money, but they are not totally free. And we've had that conversation.
So, $4 a month. Yeah. If you do an elastic, $4 a month. So.
Okay. All right. We're going to move along here. Thank you.
Yep. So next step, we have a machine up. I added an entry to my desktop app over here. And one thing that I did while Richard was talking is I updated to the new elastic IP. Not really anything different. I just came in here and edited the IP address that's attached. What we need to do, though, is we need to get the Windows password. And I mentioned that was going to be a little different than Linux. We're going to use the key, but we're not going to log in with the key. So we're going to get the Windows password. So it's come over here. It put me on this screen. It says, all right, cool. This is the one that we created and it downloaded earlier, and this is our machine name. So we're going to do this, and let's find out if this posts it. That sounds right. Yeah, RSA private key. Fantastic. Dun, dun, dun. Perfect. So we're going to copy that password. We're going to go over here, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this. This is what I do because it's awesome. You can just log in right now, and I could just paste the password in, like type administrator for the user and then paste the password in. I want you guys to see this because if you ever have literally more than a single server, boom. So we go all the way down. I have a big list. Add credentials. I'm going to put administrator, same thing. And then we're going to do Windows, or sorry, RCC Windows test. And you name it. It's a friendly name, so name it what you want. You may be like, my company's name, FileMaker Server, remote desktop, something, whatever. And hit add. That's now just saved in this Windows app, as they called it. And then it is attached to the server already. So I'm going to hit save. And then that'll be listed. So my user that I'm logging in here is administrator. And I have never connected. And that'll update to like my last connection time once we've done this once, which I'm going to do right now. And so it's asking me this. I'm just going to show this. So it says ECMA, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is like the internal Amazon. You see EC2 AMAZ, Amazon, and then some random string. These are fresh generated every time you launch a server. It's the same thing. So if you go in, like one of our, you don't have to do it, but one of our configuration steps is to rename the server in Windows so that the host name is, instead of something like this, which is impossible to keep track of, you could be like my company name, FMS, right? Yeah. Way easier to keep track of that. And it goes into backups and a few other different places. If you do it early enough in the process, FileMaker Server picks it up for you, and it'll set there's like the host, not like the domain or whatever, but like the host name that shows up at the top of your FileMaker Pro window. If you haven't named the windows manually inside your solution, that this host name shows up there. So it can be helpful. If you're like, which server am I on? You have like 2 FileMaker servers or something, dev or production, like you can do stuff like that pretty easily.
Nice.
So you can do always trust. If you're going to rename it later, maybe don't do that now. I'm just going to hit continue because it doesn't really matter for this. And then here's our soon FileMaker Server, or not FileMaker Server, Windows Server.
Windows Server.
No FileMaker yet.
So Margaret's not a giant Windows person, so this looks like Windows 11 more or less, I assume. I haven't looked at this late. I haven't ever looked at 20. Well, if I looked at 22, probably. It looks like Windows 11, right? That looks
It'll look like 10. Yeah.
Or 10, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look like, yeah.
It's 10
slightly different,
Yes.
slightly different, yeah.
Yep. The old ones, like 2016 and previous, looked like Windows 2000 for a long time.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
The new ones have like a little UI kit, and it looks, I don't know, it looks like Windows 10. It's fine.
Yeah.
Basically.
So now we can visually see our virtual make-believe server that's running on Amazon, which is kind of neat. So there's your information. I love it.
Yep. There's our host name. We have our public and private IP addresses. We have the instance type. We have our region. We have the availability, which is part of the availability zone information. This is
so that's part. That's
I'm about to say that's automatically your background. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. That Amazon must have added that to their build of server. Yeah. So.
Yeah. There's a script that does that at. I think it didn't show up for long enough to actually see it. There's a command window that's up for half a second during your first login or whatever. It sets all that stuff. And yeah, it comes from Amazon. I don't even think that's a Microsoft thing. I think that's an Amazon added it to Microsoft's images thing. There's some like Amazon tools that come built in.
Okay. Yeah. I have a question. So the architecture is AMD 64. Did you do AMD or did you do Intel? What did we do?
So AMD 64 is the first day conversation.
Yeah, where
AMD
they
64 is AMD and Intel. Yes.
Yeah.
I picked an Intel. This is an Intel server. But the architecture name is not the company that made it. It's ARM 64, right? For like an ARM processor. It's AMD 64 for AMD and Intel.
Okay, because they're the ones
won't show differently.
I'm used to seeing x86 and like that. So yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Let's see. And yes, David Angel, I set it to not be discoverable. It doesn't really matter in this case because there's not anything that's going to discover it. It could be helpful if you have multiple Windows servers inside the little VPC up in Amazon. We're not going to cover that here. In general, I just set it to no. There's various Windows settings that get turned off when you set no, and they don't matter, but it improves the security of your system at no cost to you. So.
Yeah, but you're saying you don't need it because you've already only whitelisted your machine to get
Correct.
into. Okay.
There's no incoming traffic that's going to be happening here, so it's just
Okay.
it's not a factor. It's like local network announcements for when you have like a Windows share and you have like a Windows PC and you want to connect to your Windows file share, that kind of thing.
Okay.
That doesn't apply here unless you make it apply because you're building a bunch of Windows servers inside of Amazon or something like that. So,
okay, cool. All right, moving along.
Let's see. Do we have drives?
So now we probably need to
we have
get
one
the
drive.
installer.
Cool. Nope. We have to format the hard drives. Welcome to Windows.
All right, what app are we in right now then? What is this?
We're not in an app. I hit the Windows key.
Okay,
Windows
yeah,
key.
the search function basically.
Okay, here we go. Now we need
I'm doing disk, and you want this one. You'll see the title of it at the top here. Yeah, see, there we go. And it's
disk
even asking
management.
us.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's called disk management. This is the Windows. It's like FDisk or any similar old apps, if y'all remember that, or the, what is it on Mac that you format the drives with?
Is it disk utility, Margaret?
Disk utility. Yeah.
Yes.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this is just asking me, you're going to take defaults here. We have 3 hard drives. Those are the 3 that they're just not formatted. They're not like Windows has to have NTFS formatting.
And we want MBR on them. Is that what we're doing? Leave that alone?
Just doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to hit OK. All right. So we have a format, but we don't have drives, as you see. Actually, let me refresh. Maybe.
Oh, so they're formatted, but they don't have the basic.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then we're going to do this. We're going to say new simple volume. Next.
Margaret, this is a subtlety. And once again, we don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but formatting a drive and getting it set up as on the operating system as a volume is 2 different things.
Yes.
One rides upon the other one.
And I'm naming them. So I'm going to do new simple volume. I did that one as live databases. E drive, perfect. Love that. I'm going to name it FMP12 backups because that's what we'll use it for later. Next, finish. You don't have to customize anything else here. Oops, let me scroll down a little bit.
I like that. C, live databases. Okay, nice.
Yep, and we're going to do next. F drive sounds great. Come down here. This volume labels, just what's the name of the drive, basically. That's what it'll show in Windows. And then this is container.
Is this containers?
Data.
Yeah, containers.
Yeah.
So this should be the backup container data or the live container data?
Live container data.
Live container data.
Backups is FMP12 backups. That's why we name it that way.
Okay.
So we're going to have, and actually I rename this one on our actual production systems. We do properties is how I do that. Yeah. Oh, Windows. I could do Windows boot. That's usually what we call it.
Oh, okay.
Apply. Okay. So then I'm going to minimize this. Don't close it. Now you can see all our hard drives and they're labeled and beautiful. And we know exactly what they're all for and do, right? So.
Okay.
And then the other thing I alluded to earlier, mentioned that we do on our production systems. This is so I'm in, let me demonstrate where I'm at. So Explorer, File Explorer on Windows. If you expand this thingy over here, this PC, you see our hard drives. There's some of these little, pre-canned desktop documents, whatever collections. So on this PC, which would be like my computer back in the day, right-clicking properties. We're going to bring up this, which has to reload. This works the same on all recent versions of Windows. Rename this PC. It's a little easier.
Okay.
Oops. RCC. Sorry, not RSS. Test FMS. There you go.
Right.
Next. And that's going to be it. And it's going to say, hey, you want to do that? We're going to restart later because this is a stream and we're doing stuff. But when it reboots, it'll come back up and that'll be the new name of the machine. If you then install FileMaker Server, again, after the reboot, you have to reboot first. Then when you install FileMaker Server, this will be the name of the FileMaker Server and will show up in the Pro, the top of the window. So
perfect. So now are we ready for FileMaker Server installation?
Yeah, which we're going to do tomorrow. Okay. Install and configure. If we want to we could pre-deploy some things. Could do this.
You've got a solid 10 minutes here.
Oops.
Yesterday we went late.
FileMaker FileMaker data, that's where we'll put our FMP12s. We're gonna set up 3 backup or 4 actually. Say an hourly backup. Yes, everyone knows what that's for. Daily backup. You can do a weekly backup, and then we're gonna do the 4th one we do is we do progressives, and I put it all in the same drive.
Mm.
There you go. And then we'll go to the container data drive. And go in here, we'll make a folder, and this will be container data. And I'm gonna show how to configure all of these tomorrow. Basically, these are gonna go in the relevant folder locations in FileMaker Server, and then we're gonna make backup schedules that hourly, daily, weekly, that go into those relevant locations. So
Okay. Cool.
no, we did not set up an AWS security group yet, with the exception that you had to do that to get into the server in the first place. So technically, yes, we have remote desktop opened. We have the 2 web ports, 80 and 443 available. We have not gone back and added, say, FileMaker Server or the FileMaker Pro and Go port 5003. We've not done that yet.
Did part of the instance, did we blow by it, or it gave us a default security group?
We did not blow by it. We configured it.
Okay.
Talked about it.
Okay. Sorry, it's a lot, and I missed that part.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see.
That's why these are recorded sessions.
Let's see. Okay, so that's fine. So if we go, this is the console, right? We have our 2 servers here. We're going to go to the Windows one. We go to the security. I can't actually scroll that up, so I'm going to do this. Click on that. This is the firewall listing for this FileMaker server. You will note we have the RDP. It's if I scroll to the right, you can see this one's this is our office IP here. The 2 web ports. This is at 0. All zeros is everybody. Everybody can access.
Yeah.
We're going to edit inbound rules. We're going to not scroll down that far. We're going to add a rule. FileMaker uses port 5003.
Yep.
And we're going to open this one up. You can lock this down if you wish. But I'll say I have 1 customer that does that, period. So
yeah,
they like have their FileMaker only accessible to their office, basically, because that's the only place they access it from. So they get to have a cloud hosted server that's not accessible from anywhere, which is super duper secure. So
yeah.
But it doesn't. It's like, but it's good, but it's also 1 step down from like it's completely inaccessible and you only get in on a VPN or something like that. So it's pretty good, but it requires less setup, less management. You don't have to, get VPN stuff set up on all the different computers and that kind of thing. So it's a nice balance. But yeah, so now we have these are the basic setup ports that you'd need on a FileMaker server for Windows anyway. The RDP obviously, or the SSH on the Linux server, and then you will need at least 5003 and 443. Those are minimum. 80 I would call optional. I tend to leave it open, actually. I noted yesterday when we did the FileMaker server install on Ubuntu that they don't even open port 80 anymore, actually, by default anyway. And that is kind of interesting, and I'll say a little bit of a problem, not in a bad way, but just interesting. It's a good security choice. What it does, though, is the first time that you fire up your browser to connect to your FileMaker server, like check the domain, see if it's running, it doesn't, there's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
It goes into a black hole if that port's not open. That's fine. It's not necessarily bad. It's just you have to know, I have to type HTTPS on my browser or I'm definitely not going to get a response. And that it's an extra step. It just makes it a little more difficult for people who are figuring it out the first time, that kind of thing. So
are you mostly, and we got 5-6 minutes left. I have a question that some of you will find interesting, but I want to make sure that we're mostly good. Okay, there's also
either of the Discord.
We do have questions in Discord, yes. So do you want to do those first, or do you want to do yours first?
I can do Mark. Mark asks, what's the monthly cost of a server like this in AWS? We ballpark a base server like this at about $90 a month, plus or minus $5, depending on the disks and that kind of stuff. But that's the range. That price can be brought down a bit if you get a reservation, which we have not really covered. That is where you it's not even a pre-allocation, but you tell Amazon, I'm going to use this server for a year or 3 or whatever. And they go, okay, great. And they give you a discount for it because they can plan that capacity.
If you do a 3-year, I think you can get upwards of 40% off.
Correct.
Right. And
Yeah.
so whenever I quote prices, I always quote them on a 1 year or 3, because most people are not going to get a server for a year.
Correct.
So in fact,
but the Linux ones are really good. You can get some really big discounts on a Linux server if you commit for several years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just so you know, everyone knows it's 1 year or 3 years is kind of the two reservations, and obviously the bigger reservation, the more discount you get. I want to ask a question here real quick because this gets into, well, Alex Connell has a question here. So do you replace administrator account with another account? Is reducing? Nope. Okay. No. Okay.
Nope. Okay. We do not do that, and that was addressed earlier in the stream as I didn't address it as a specific topic. We don't do that because it's unnecessary, because you are not leaving your remote desktop port open to the entire internet. Do not do that. That is a recommendation straight up. That's why it doesn't matter.
Limit it to a specific whitelist address. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
correct.
let's talk about this in terms of, we've done a live stream on zero tier. Zero tier is essentially kind of this VPN-ish kind of service that I use, Jacob uses. It's awesome, just to be clear. So now, if these were going to be, let's just say, pretend that these are RCC servers, so everyone understands, not just test servers, these are going to be RCC, so we're going to keep them, we're not going to get rid of them.
Yep.
We have this whitelist down here, right? If I have, I'm going to just draw my thing here a little bit. We have this whitelist over here, and it's this RDP. Mm-hmm. Now, if we're doing the zero tier, do we install zero tier on here now and then restart the server? What does this look like?
You would install zero tier, and then you could delete all of those entries. You don't need incoming traffic at all.
So correct. Zero tier.
This is why offline in the cloud. That's the joke I make. It's a bad combination of words. I'm doing it to be funny on purpose. But that's why I call it that, is because you can get rid of the incoming firewall rules. In other words, the server can still talk out, which is what it does. There's an application that runs on the server. It's a little desktop app or whatever, but that runs on the server. It does an outgoing connection. That's all that you actually need for the remote access. The incoming stuff, not necessary at all.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So that's called zero tier. It's a security upgrade thing.
You can. It runs on Linux. It runs on Windows.
I use it on the Mac.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why a lot of times I'm trying to do demos and I don't have zero tier set up or configured, and then I can't get to a demo machine I want to demo.
Yep. Because we bubble Richard stuff so that it's accessible to him, but like, if he doesn't have it set up on his computer, he's not getting anything.
Yeah, I have it on this computer, but yeah, so I can see it from here because I'm in Stockton, but that's on the machines I work on, right? So yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. So some of you went and watched our live stream on zero tier, and then you went and got it. And the stupid thing is either free or I think I paid $5 or $6 a month, right? So it's for what it does.
It's a very nominal fee, and it's I'll call it the free tier, if you will, or the free allowance on your account. Very reasonable. You will find the value worth the initial monthly cost by the time you get there. Don't worry about it.
Connor Bloomkin says ditto on the zero tier. It's awesome.
Yeah. We've put it on a few clients who, and I think Hot Air Balloon Ken is one of them, but there's a couple clients we put it on their servers where it helps them where they go to conferences and stuff all over the country, and they didn't want to go, like email Jacob to open up to a hotel Wi-Fi IP, like don't do that. They can have secure access anywhere, even on bad hotel Wi-Fi. Yes. There's no concern. So, and it lets them have great access to their server, and they can go do management. These are my customers that tend to go in and do some of their own server management. So,
okay. Good.
David Angel, no, because we're not using it. There's a AWS side VPN thing also. I don't recommend that. It's expensive. So.
Okay. Yeah. So zero tier is part of that conversation, but yeah, it allows you to see things back on your network. It shockingly solves a lot of connectivity problems. Never mind the security. It solves a lot of just getting into a machine that you normally couldn't get into without a static address. I don't run static addresses on any of my anymore. Well, except for one server maybe, but it's largely, I don't even know if we do that. You don't need I used to have static addresses everywhere. Like get rid of them. That's a security improvement. And then the only way to get into it is through zero tier. And you have to log into zero tier. Then the administrator on the other side of zero tier, you have to log in there and you have to approve it. So it's like this two, kind of almost like a two-factor. You have to ask for it, and the other person has to approve it. And yeah, so
it's a keys authorization thing.
it's
also end-to-end encrypted. If you use the cool business marketing terms, it's a zero trust remote access tool. It does a lot of cool stuff. Honestly, we use it for like one feature.
Zero trust remote access. I have to write that down. That's like a mouthful of awesome.
It's the government. Like
zero trust.
There's a bunch of zero tiers competitors are like big government contract thingies, and they're like, oh, don't trust anything, whatever. That's why they call it that. But it's access limited based on you are on a specific computer and you have rights to access certain remote hosts within that virtual network, basically. And if you don't have rights, you can't touch it.
Can't get in. Yeah, it's very frustrating when it doesn't work. Yeah, it's like, holy. So yeah, you're locked out. Lynn asked a question, do you pay the reservation? So the reservations, you can commit to a 1 year or 3 year, but then you pay for it monthly or something, or you give them a bunch of money on the front end. I think we pay for it monthly. We do.
You can do it. So there, just to, for capacity reservations and stuff like that. If you're a fresh, brand new account, they won't let you get the freebie, which is no upfront, basically, because they haven't tested your credit card at that point. A short version, honestly, I think that's what it is. But you can do a partial or full upfront. That is what it sounds like. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to buy a 1 year reservation for a T3 large, approximately, right? A Windows one. Okay. You can do full upfront, but that only pays for the T3 large part. Doesn't pay for your disks, backups, bandwidth, whatever, other little incidentals and details, the IP address that comes with that. So it will substantially reduce by like 35% your cost, one, but two, you're going to pay that like the year's worth of that monthly fee right there, or half of it, whichever one that you do. If you do full upfront, it is a minor, like each one, it's like no upfront, partial upfront, or full upfront. Each additional step is a tiny increase in savings. But the real savings are 1 year or 3 year. 3 years.
Yes, that's where it's at. Yeah. So I'm a big believer in the 3 year, because here's the thing, you're not locked into that server for 3 years. You're locked into basically giving them that amount of money for 3 years. And you can't upgrade that server. To downgrade, it's kind of a difficult, but to upgrade, like, I want more server.
If you downgrade, you end up with a reservation that's bigger than the one that you want.
Yeah.
It's really complicated to explain it, honestly, but there is a system for either like you get a bigger server and your reservation's too small, or you have a big reservation and a smaller. There's a way to account for that in Amazon. It's kind of hard to explain. I would just tell you.
But you can upgrade the server and it's going to handle it automatically for you, right? So that's how that works. So real quick, the reason they don't bill everything up front is that you're paying for the server, but then like as you beat the crap out of your hard drive, it's going to charge you another $1 or $2 a month. Amazon charges you from the data that you send into the server, not for the data that comes out of the server. Jacob, stop me if I'm wrong, right? But generally, if you're
outgoing isn't paid for.
But if you send into it a terabyte of data a month, then whatever that's going to be.
You posting data to the server doesn't cost anything. Ingress to the server, just from the server's perspective, data it receives does not count. You're never billed for it ever.
It's the outbound. Is that what it is?
Data outbound. In other words, the server sending you stuff from the server's perspective, sending you stuff. That's what you pay for.
That's what you pay for. Yes, one of them. So
it's the big conversation with. You can do the backups that exist like inside Amazon using Amazon's own services, generally within the same region, because there are cross-region fees and stuff like that. They're not big, but they exist. At a certain data size, they matter. But it's like, for example, if you have a big database, and you're thinking about a Dropbox backup or something like that, there is a cost conversation to have there and about frequency, because you're going to pay a number of cents per gigabyte that you upload. And so if you're doing that hourly, that adds up really fast. If it's maybe daily or weekly, a sleep well at night offsite, good.
But it depends on the size of the customer, right? If you're Boeing or something, you don't give it, right? You want the backups, right? So it just. All right, cool. Anything else on this? We have any questions? Did we get an updated question?
No.
Yeah. No, someone, yeah, it's spelled zero tier. Zerotier, which I will
One
also
word,
put.
yeah. Just do a search for that, and I use it like crack. It's great. I love it. I use zero tier. I like zero tier like I like FileMaker. Um, Luckily, the people at zero tier don't do as much stupid shit, so I don't yell at them too often. They're pretty competent. Um, but yeah,
Most problems I have with it, it's your version's too far out of date. Go update.
yeah. So there's always
But
and whenever you refresh a server, like you have a Amazon instance, and you're going to refresh your FileMaker server, you probably while you're doing it, just get a fresh up install as your. You don't have to re-authenticate it. It magically goes in there and just says, "Oh, yeah, very good," just updated code, and
yep,
then it's always
it'll.
talking to the zero tier servers to make sure it's authorized and etc. So
Mhm.
that's some pretty awesome shit. Seriously.
Let's see. We'll do like a
Aha.
reservation. I'm not going to buy a reservation. Left side, yeah, I went to EC2. I'm just describing what I'm doing. Reserved instances. We have some really old ones from years ago. You could purchase a new one. We'll do the Windows because it's more annoying to demonstrate. So you have like a bunch of different ones here. This is why I was mentioning the different versions of avoid the SQL because it's just more cost. Tenancy, we don't need a dedicated server. We don't need, these are convertible, which means you can change them. You can convert them into other kinds. We're going to do a term, a year. We are looking at a T3 large. We're just going to search. And so this is going to give us three options. And these are three options for all upfront, no upfront, and partial upfront. This is what we referred to previously. And you can see the upfront price, right? This is what I was talking about. You're going to pay for the whole year worth of the instance, like today, if you do an all upfront reservation. So that's what you do. You select one of those and then add to cart and then pay. David Angel's asking if you can do wild and weird things. Can you use, so if you have like an Active Directory server, I don't know, on site or somewhere else, but if you have an Active Directory server for your Windows fleet, can you probably bind or otherwise point this Amazon server at that on-site one? The answer is probably yes. And then further, could you do that over zero tier? Also probably yes. I don't see a specific reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. It looks like a local area network. So let's see. Hourly rate on the reservation. That is the hourly rate on the reservation. So no upfront is the discount because these are, I don't know, 9.9 cents an hour or something like that, or some number like this. And so you're going to pay a little less on the no upfront. You get a little discount. Partial upfront, you're going to pay this, like this is your bill. So round number 720 hours a month. That's like a 30-day month. So obviously some months are shorter, some months are longer, but this is what you'll actually pay. Yeah, so there's that, and then you get a little discount. So
Yeah, so really it's mostly about having most about having the reservation at all, right? So you want to,
yeah,
that's where you want to do that.
that's why I said the bigger savings are like changing this to 1 or 3 years versus anything else. The difference here is maximum 4 cents an hour, or no, a fourth of 0.4 cents an hour, 0.4 cents an hour.
Okay,
Maybe,
and then
yeah,
okay,
0.4
so the
penny.
term is 1 month to 12 months. So this is without. Is this a 12-month reservation? What is that?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then go to that one real quick just so we can see the difference.
If we do 12 to 36, this would be your 3 year. So here's your numbers. So you're down at 0.6 if you do it all
what was the
up front.
numbers? What was the numbers if you went no reservation? What was it?
0.86, 0.87, and 0.9.
0.8, point as in like not zero.
8.6, 8.7 cents an hour, and 9 cents an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So then we can get to 6.5 cents an hour if you buy 3 years worth of server.
So it went down about what, 30%? Is that what that was? About 30%?
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, it doesn't sound like much, but the Amazon runs around and does this thing where they're billing per minute or per hour, per microsecond, and it looks really small, but then you start looking at the bigger numbers over here, right? And then, And
there's other places you can do stuff. There's facilities for like, because this is all hourly billing. So like we like I call it Amazon price translator. That's one of my jobs. Because I have to like give you a nice number that you can look at that's like, oh, what am I thinking about? It's never going to be correct. Like no number I ever give anybody is right. And that's just at a basic level. It's because the number of days in the month vary.
Yes.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But like also, like a bunch of the stuff is fundamentally it is usage based. And that confuses a lot of people. And it's also the cause, if you've ever seen it, where people get sudden $10,000 bills or weird stuff like that with Amazon. That's very real. We build the system so that they don't have problems like that. But like that's part of the service we're providing essentially. And that's why I'm able to reasonably summarize, or I call it a projection, but the price for you on a monthly basis based on your actual hardware requirements, database size, container data set size, et cetera, et cetera. So
as a side note, and we'll be laying the plane. We have other questions, but this is a fun one. So Claris Cloud, where they provide a service, Claris does this. They add all this stuff together. You never see it. They put a FileMaker server installed, then they mark it up a lot of money and they sell it to you. That's what Claris Cloud is. Okay. Now, back in the day when Jacob was brand new baby puppy at RCC, they did this deal where they would say, we want you to, because people say, well, it's on a per minute per hour basis. Okay, we're going to run the FileMaker server from 8 in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. It'll shut down at night and then it'll start the next morning. And they thought that was such a great idea. And what would happen is they would promise people prices and do things based upon that. But in order to turn it on and off, you had to actually go into a control panel somewhere, and not a very easy control panel, turn on or off. Okay. And people would get busy. Their lives would get busy. They go to Christmas vacation. They get divorced. They get married. They move or whatever. They forget. And then they literally get a bill in the mail because it got turned on and left on. And the whole idea of shutting it off at night, it wouldn't do it automatically or seasonally or whatever they would do. Huge problems. So for those of you thinking, oh, it's per minute, per hour, I could save all this money. No. You're going to save money for about 6 months until you feel good that you've got everything under control. You're going to turn your back on it and it's going to run out of control. Just pay 24/7, 365 for the period of time, get a 1 year, 3 year reservation.
I occasionally have clients ask about stuff like that because I think these days it's like if you build more machinations inside Amazon, you could reasonably schedule the like turning on and turning off of the machine.
Sure.
You'd have to literally know your business hours or something like to do that. But like magically, let's say that's already, you can just set that up. Okay, cool. The problem that you have then in practice is you are automatically starting and stopping a FileMaker server. Can you independently confirm those files close safely every time? You're doing that every day now.
Oh, that's right? Over and above. That's over and above. Yeah.
Right. So, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, that's my first question, which is we as policy do not trust the auto open databases setting on FileMaker server because you can't guarantee it went down correctly. Like fundamentally, that's why. And so
okay, back up. That was really subtle. Let me back that up. He said, we don't trust the auto open because we can't guarantee that it closed correctly. And you're like, what the did he just say? In this case, Margaret, pay attention. The close happens first. We tell Windows to shut down, Mac to shut down, Linux to shut down. And if it's shut down correctly and shut down properly, then we know that file's great. And then telling it to automatically open would not be a problem. The problem is that we cannot guarantee that actually transpired.
Yep.
At all.
And I have it's not a big secret, but it is a big secret. FileMaker Server 21 is, and specifically actually 21.1, the latest and current in-market version, is the very first version of FileMaker Server for Windows they have ever, underlined an asterisk, ever certified. Claris, we don't. Claris certifies it for being able to do that. First version. Yeah. So, like, I can't say it's safe. We recommend against it every single time. But what I can tell you is this is the first version ever that someone is willing to say that in public.
And how long has server's been out since FileMaker Pro 2? No, FileMaker Pro 2 was the first server. So that was a thing back then too. So the question is yeah. So yeah.
Yep.
So because what happens is Windows, Mac, Linux, the operating system is shutting down. It tells FileMaker Server to shut down. And what happens is that as Jacob says, the operating system, if you take too long, it pulls out a gun and loses its and your file did not get shut down. Probably it's a dead file. That's violent. Your file is damaged. That file is damaged. Violence, damage, that's a real thing.
We consider that a crashed file. Anything where it didn't close safely, that's it. Yeah, we consider that a crashed file. That means that you need to be restoring from a backup period, which is probably by hand in most circumstances. So that's like, don't do that. Avoid putting yourself in that situation. Operational choices, shutting down and turning back on again on a schedule that result in you crashing your file, potentially up to and including repeatedly, are bad for your business. So business advice that applies to a technical topic, don't do that.
So we have Lynn's thing, which is on the 3-year So on the 3-year reservation, it is $1,700 over 36 months, basically $47.38 per month. What other costs would I be charged with on a monthly basis?
Let me try this. Hard drive assigned to it, the amount of data being moved off the server, which is like a penny or a gigabyte or some bullshit like that. So really small, unless you're running a porn site or something, right? But not zero, right? And a static address, which is called an elastic address.
Yep.
Right. So data going off.
At least.
Yeah. And so that's figure another $8 or $10 or something.
Yeah.
$15 on the high end. So yeah, that's probably what was that? I'm looking at that number
discs, again. The discs, the SSDs are 10 cents per gigabyte per month. So that in general, like the cost for FileMaker Server, unless you have a lot of data, it's the instance cost, which is this is what this reservation is for. That's only one component.
Where's my calculator?
Of the cost.
I need a calculator here.
The second part is the disks. That's usually that's either the second biggest part, or if you have a lot of data, the biggest part. The third is, and we're not demonstrating this today or tomorrow even, but S3 backups. Those are cheap, but because they're cheap, people tend to try and keep a lot of them. And so those can be it's not a substantial cost center, but it's not, again, non-zero.
Down the road. So Jacob Taylor, typically, would this be a $60 server when we're done here? 60? Well, it's $45.38 right now. I'm looking at Lynn's thing. So on general, you would.
If he does a 3-year, hold on, let me do a quick price on this server. All right, so then we just did a little basic system here. So 180, let me do math, 230 gigabytes. So that's $23 a month. So we're at 47 plus 23, so we're at $60-70 right there. Before backups, bandwidth, IP.
So add another 10, so that's 80. So that's 80. So that's what you're looking at on a reservation, 80. Yeah,
the IP will be $4. So you're at 74. And then, you want to think about backups or outgoing bandwidth. In general, unless you're doing big files offsite, the outgoing bandwidth will be minuscule, frankly. It's $1 a month usually tops. But the S3 can be substantial depending on how big your databases are. It's cheap. It's like the most expensive S3 is 2 cents per gigabyte per month, which is great compared to 10. So keep a lot of backups. But it's not zero. And you can save money there. Our backup system that we give our customers and set up on their system automatically marks the old backups. It's like weeklies and monthlies and stuff like that. They're automatically marked as a cheaper type of storage so that you're just free money you're saving. So
yeah. Anyway, so that gives you a good idea. So you start with your base price, which is just your hardware and RAM and stuff, and then you add a little bit more for the drives and the drives, the traffic, and then the elastic IP. So it's so then if you have a $80 a month server, then that's 810.60, something like that, 1,060 for the year. Well, I can buy my own server for that. Yeah, but they're also providing the security for the server. If bad guys try to attack the server, Amazon's largely going to take care of that themselves because listen, if someone attacks, this is a really important concept. If someone attacks a virtual server on Amazon, Amazon can't say, no, Ed Burkle, that's your own problem, or Lynn or Kyle, that's your own problem. They have to protect their own because that virtual server is one slice of their bigger server. The whole thing's getting attacked. And so they are going to work to protect that, right? Now, if it's your own server in your own, you have some sort of business, AT&T fiber.
Yeah, all the different network firewalling and like that, all that software, usually hardware that if you're doing real hosting, like you'll end up with a hardware firewall or something like that. You
Yep.
have to manage all of that. That's going to come with, in general, but not always, licensing costs or some kind of upkeep, maintenance in general that goes with that. Like there's all kinds of stuff that go into it. It can be doable, like I don't say it's not the cheapest thing to host on Amazon. They are not at all the most expensive host though, not at all. And
Okay.
one of the reasons that we recommend them for virtual server hosting basically, is because a bunch of this stuff is just taken care of.
Yes.
If you're like, I want to squeeze every last penny out, you can find cheaper hosts.
Yeah.
At some point though, you're going to make a choice like that and get what you paid for.
Yeah.
So,
Peter Gaines has a quick question. I'm going to pivot on that, then we're going to land the plane. Is a snapshot from an instance, AWS or hypervised, a good idea for restoration, or do we need the FMS backups to be sure?
Answer is you have to, in Amazon, completely automatically do the snapshots for a Windows system. I'm going to answer this to Windows specifically because I think that's what's being asked here.
Yeah.
Because it is what all IT people ask ever. The shortest answer is do not use or rely on snapshots for backups, frankly. What you can do with a snapshot that's useful and helpful to you is, for example, on-site servers where you have software that automates the VSS, volume shadow copy stuff, like you're in Hyper-V or something like that on an on-site server, that tends to be integrated. You don't see that automation, but I'm just telling you it's there and happening. Those you can go retrieve the completed written out backups from FileMaker Server out of that image. Helpful? Fine.
Yes. And so once again, yes.
Do not pull the live copies of the databases. They are not consistent. That file was not closed by FileMaker Server because it is open, because it was a live server. FileMaker Server doesn't know anything about volume shadow copy or any of the rest of that stuff. I believe a couple of our competitors have done some Windows hosting or something like that, where they had a working snapshot system for Windows servers. That required, honestly, hundreds or thousands of lines of code to fully and correctly manage every possible permutation of the issues FileMaker Server can have.
Yes.
Pausing the database, doing the VSS pause, then you call out to Amazon for the outside the machine snapshot. You wait for that to happen. It's a whole thing. It's huge. I've written most of the code for it. It's very difficult to get right. I don't recommend it. That's it. For on-site servers, they tend to have some kind of an automatic snapshot. If what you're using is the written out and completed, this is verified by you as that being true, backup from that image, you can use that for data restoration or something like that. That's okay. It's fine. So
okay. All right. Well, we're going to land the airplane here. That's another 25 minutes of good questions. Tomorrow is going to be focused on the FileMaker Server part of this conversation. We're going to take this instance that's running right here, and we're going to stick a copy of FileMaker Server on there and go through that. It should be pretty straightforward, but there'll always be good questions. So feel free to chime in tomorrow so we can land this airplane tomorrow and complete this conversation. All right, Peter, everyone, top cat, Jacob, appreciate it. Everyone else who's here, we greatly appreciate it.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.